Let's bring in Hoover Institute Senior Fellow Victor Davis Hanson. Victor, let's start with this. If people listen to Joe Biden the last 4 years, this is the greatest threat to the American people. Wait,
well, he said
listen
that
to
white
this.
Supremacy was.
Wait, listen to this
Okay.
real quick. Just listen.
According to the intelligence community, terrorism from white supremacy is the most lethal threat to the homeland today. Not ISIS, not Al-Qaeda, white supremacists. According to the United States intelligence community, domestic terrorism from white supremacists is the most lethal terrorist threat in the homeland. The most dangerous terrorist threat to our homeland is white supremacy.
Adding to that, the speech he gave in 2023 after the Hamas terror attack, murdering women, children, and families, he mentioned Islamophobia more times than anti-Semitism. That's Joe Biden.
Well, there's never any data to back any of that up. We know from federal crime statistics that the greatest targets of hate crimes are Jewish Americans. They only comprise 2% of the population, and they're 50% of the victims. And the perpetrators are not what he says, whites. They're underrepresented in hate crimes, to take that example. But blacks, people of color, for whatever reasons, are overrepresented demographically. So there's no empirical data to back that up, other than he's pandering to his base. And the same thing about, if you look at the data of crimes in the context of terrorism, who perpetrates terrorism, it's not white supremacists. They don't rank anywhere near Islamic radicals. I mean, after all, this started with 3,000 people killed by Islamic radicals on 9/11. Where's he been?
Victor, I want to bring the FBI into this as well. What do you make of the fact that the assistant special agent down in Louisiana was unwilling to call this right away without any data to suggest otherwise, unwilling to call it terrorism? That didn't seem like an accident to me.
Yeah, I mean, she should have just suspended all judgment until she begins to make a reasonable conjecture, but she couldn't do that. And that's a reflection of her indoctrination. This DEI idea that it's okay to call people white supremacists as terrorists, but you don't dare touch a protected category like Muslims. It's just embarrassing, and everybody knew it. And what it's going to do, it's going to fuel the momentum to have confirmed Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, but especially Kash Patel. People are sick of this, and they want somebody in there to bring back these agencies to their former disinterested positions. And I think they will. They'll get confirmed because of things like this very quickly.
Because the whole DEI movement is really just about a political power grab, Victor. It is, they shame, humiliate, denigrate, because if you cower, they control. That is the entire equation.
Yeah, it is, and that's why they have all of these new techniques, swatting, deplatforming, shadow banning, cancel culture, that they use to intimidate people and deter them. And unfortunately for them, in 2024, that was rejected, and now they're in a panic. It's a pre-civilizational mindset that we judge people by their superficial appearance. The marks of civilization was supposedly content of your character, not the color of your skin.
That's so well put. I want to ask you about this. The Judge Merchan ordering Trump sentenced to be sentenced on January 10th. It's a unconditional discharge is what we're hearing is going to happen, which wouldn't carry any sort of penalties in terms of restriction of movement or anything like this, but it leaves the felony on his record. That seems like a lot of spite to me. What do you make of it?
Well, it's designed to do what the Democrats tried to do in the campaign, say that Donald Trump is a convicted felon, and then they were called on it because that's not actualized until the sentencing takes place. Now it will take place in violation, by the way, of the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity. And this is nobody else would have ever been tried if he was not named Donald Trump, or if Donald Trump had just said, I'm not going to run again for a third time. Alvin Bragg would have never brought those indictments, and everybody knows it.
So the sentencing, Victor, is next Friday. It's January the 10th. And President Trump did speak. He reacted to this sentencing, spoke to Fox News Digital. And what jumped out at me from what he said was, he said, I'm not allowed to speak about the thing because I'm still under a gag order. It's just disgraceful.
It is. And, you know, the left says we don't want to engage in lawfare after we engaged in it. But they have been so egregious in this one-sided distortion of the law, there's going to be a lot of popular demand that some of these people who abuse the judicial system for political purposes be held to account in the next 4 years.
All right, so I want to ask you about, you've got a piece, and I'm just dying to get your perspective on this. You're saying we've got our weakest president ever, President Biden, leaving, and the most audacious president about to take office. That seems full of possibility to me. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's a bigger dichotomy even than the failed Carter presidency and the hope of Ronald Reagan. But now all of a sudden people are not afraid anymore. They don't have to worry about being canceled, or they can say that there is not a viable third sex, or they can say that Israel had ample cause to destroy Hezbollah. They don't have to worry about all of this censorship. And there's nobody saying, don't do that, you can't do that, our best days are over, be careful. Now somebody says, do it. Try, experiment, take gambles, take risks. We're Americans. We have energy, we have food, we have all these natural resources, we have talent. There's nothing we can't do. And even the left is kind of saying, we're done for a while. We're going to go lick our wounds. Let you take over. We don't even want Joe Biden to finish his term. We won't even invoke the Logan Act like we used to. He's a de facto president. Just let us get out of this mess we created. It's very strange how they've got almost abdicated the last 3 months during this transition.
And Victor, before we go, it's just been 4 years of blithely lying and incompetently leading. And at every turn, they could never, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and the fact that Alejandro Mayorkas is still in that job after the death and destruction at his feet, and the hardship created intentionally with an open border, just the open border, and the terror attack in New Orleans. Again, enough. And that's exactly what the American people said.
I know. It was awful gaslighting. We saw that he was mentally challenged, and yet we were said that we were cheap faking to do that. We saw the border was open with our own eyes every night, and they said, you know, it's secure. The only role that Mayorkas played was anybody who voted for him on the Republican side for confirmation 4 years ago will be disgraced if he votes against any of the Trump nominees. That's the only value I see that he has.
Well, I'm going to go look. I'm going to go make a list about that, Victor Davis Hanson. Great to see you, sir.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.